Hey folks, welcome back to my top 200 board games of all time. Today we're going through 180 through 171. My camera died, so this is the second time I'm going through this. So it's going to be quick. My number 180 is A Castle for All Seasons. Boy, do I love this game. I can talk about this one again. Why not? The artwork is beautiful. Components are great. The gameplay is so strategic. You each have the same deck of cards. You can play whatever card you want, anytime you want. Everyone plays them face down and reveals. Why do you play them face down? Because certain cards can interact with other opponents' cards to give you better abilities. Either more supplies or more material, or victory points even. So it's this kind of, you know, you're guessing what your opponent's doing, and then you're faking out your opponents or double faking the fake. But yeah, you see and you look and see what your opponents are doing and say, I think a lot of people are going to be gathering resources this time, so I'm going to use this guy who, if I'm correct, can steal from each one of those people who play this card on this turn, because I see two of them haven't played it yet, and I think they're going to play it now. Or I think these people are going to start building. They have plenty of resources. They've been eyeing the board. I'm going to play this card that gives me victory points every time someone else builds this round. And like I said, there's a lot of strategy in that as you're looking at your hand, looking at and seeing what other players have left, and then guessing what their next move will be. Now, there is a card that just picks up all your cards back up in your hand. It's almost a little bit of a wasted turn, even though there is a strategy of when you should play that as well. But at the same time, you're trying to get some area control on the board, getting your people in position. There are certain areas in the castle that give you certain goals. If you get there in time, you'll get extra victory points for, I don't know, building huts inside the castle or building the towers that range outside the walls or something. And then it shifts your focus to what you should be focusing on and building to get those extra victory points. You don't always have to build the big storehouse or whatever in the middle of the castle, or the gate, which is a lot of resources and a lot of points. Those are ways to get big points in the game, but it's those in-game points that can really send you over the edge. Like I said, your decision on when to take certain actions is crucial in this game, and that's why it's awesome. There is an advanced version of the game. You flip it over, it's the winter side of the game. Everything looks the same, but it's all covered in snow, and you have these event cards you pull over every round. I have not yet played with that version yet, but I really should my next time. My gaming group loves this so much. One of my buddies, if he hasn't bought it, it is on his short list to buy, because this is one of his favorite games in my collection for sure. It debuted on my list at number 151. It moves down 29 spots, and that's for what I call the sophomore slump. You know, after that newness wears out, then you really get to see, is this game going to get played as much as last year? If it doesn't, it's going to fall. If it does, it may move up. And this one didn't get played as much as it did last year, even though I still love it. Happy to have it in my collection. My number 179 has been in my collection for 3 years now. It's Burke. Burke is this great, I guess it's kind of like an economy game where you're trying to buy all these resources. There are all these shops, all these vendors, and they're trying to sell you beer and cupcakes and paper and hats and boots and all these sort of things. And you can see over the next 5 rounds what the rates are going to be, you know, so you know when to buy low and then sell high. Now you're wanting to get a collection or majority of all these goods too, because at the end of every round, whoever has the most will also get that little family shield from whoever the craftsman is. And those shields can, you know, transfer and translate into victory points in the game. Now there are some other people you can go up, and every one of these shops have an inn at the top of it, and in that inn you can also start gathering people from that inn, guests from that inn, to get in-game points or special abilities or end of the round abilities. And this game scales really well too, because the more players you have, the more shops you have. Now, if you can play all players, I think it's like 5 or 6 players, that's a great game. That's a great game right there, because all the shops are open. And you can decide which shops will be open. You don't have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do 5, 6, 7, you can throw those shops in there as well, which I've done before. The Derby shop is like the last shop you'll do, only if you have the max amount of players, and we'll just throw it in there just for fun. Like I said, the production value is there. It's really awesome. Artwork's nice too. It's a great game, so much fun to play, and as you're buying and selling stuff, certain items, depending on, if you're getting these people who live up in the inns, if you're getting those people, you're trading items too. And sometimes, like the cupcake guy, he'll also have some boots or some paper or whatnot. And you're like, ooh, I really want that cloth and that paper there because it's cheap where the cupcake guy is, but it's really expensive right now where the cloth guy is. Or I just need a bigger majority to beat this one person out so I can get that crest, that shield next time. A lot of strategy there. Absolutely love it. This game debuted on my list at 131, went up a little bit last year to 127, and then moved down 52 spots. Why was that? It only got played once this year. And so a game like that kind of slips through the cracks and doesn't get played as much. It's not getting played as much as it was the past 2 years, that's for sure. I have no reason why, just new games have entered my collection, and it's in a good spot on my shelf. I'm looking at it now. It's near the top, so it's something I would, visually see a lot, you'd think, to play, but I only got to play it once this year, so I guess that's why it dropped so much, but still, awesome game. My number 178 has been in my collection for 3 years now. It is Queen Games Maharani. Love Maharani. Tile placement game. You're turning this wheel. It's turning toward the player there, and they're deciding which of these tiles will go in each one of the 4 corners. However, there are ways to cheat and move that tile to a different corner of the palace if you so choose to do so. It's a lot of area control here as you're trying to place it just right, put your man on it, establish a presence there. You want to have several people on several different colored tiles to score a lot of points, because every time a section fills up, that's when a big score happens. Now this game is way smarter than I think most people give it credit for. It's an amazing game, but I will say this, you need the queenies. You got to have the queenies. The little halvesy tiles are great so that you can put down this tile and have it be blue or green or red or yellow or whatever colors there are. It's great to have those choices there. So I always play the halvesies, and then the other queenie is wild tiles. They're basically white, and they can fit with almost anything, and they're fantastic because it brings another color in the game. You see, when you score this game, if you're on I think there's like 7 colors in the game. If you're on all 7 colors in one section, which is impossible in my opinion, I've never seen it done. I think 4 or 5 has been the most. That's the average. But when you play with the wild tiles, you can get to 6, maybe. Saw someone do 6 different colors once. And the wild tiles just offer more options in the game to score. And this game is wonderful. So fun. I know a lot of people say, Matt, you need to play Azul. Not interested. I've seen it, but I like Maharani. This game is the highest it's ever been on my list. It debuted at 190, slipped down to 213. I don't know why. It's up 35 spots because it's a fantastic game. I've played it more than once this year. I've had fun with it. I've played through a lot of my Queen games several times before, which is why number 177 is also from Queen Games. It is Discover India. Now, that cover looks horrendous. It looks horrendous. However, the game is awesome. It's a little bit educational too, because as you're moving through India, you're going through all the big cities, and if you go to where there's these festival tokens on there, not only will you get a victory point, but you also get the card of that city, which will also translate into a victory point at the end of the game. Now, even though these victory points are minor in the whole scope of things, there have been times the game will be close. The game will be close between several players usually, and those extra victory points you got by visiting festivals and having those cards will maybe sometimes edge out the victory. It has in a couple of our games. Now, I love Discover India. I got it. I looked at the cover and almost vomited. I was like, no, that game doesn't look interesting at all. But then when I started looking at the components and the gameplay, I was like, yeah, this may be the game for me. I told this story last year where my nephew played it with me for the first time ever. When I got it and went, this is one of my favorite games in the world. I played it with him again. He said, yeah, I love this game. Because you're also, and this is where the crux of the game is, you have your own little player board, and it's an interconnected web of trails where when you go to a city, you're grabbing a stack of tokens and shifting through them and getting a colored token that you want and placing it on your board, and you're trying to establish this path to connect as many as you can. Now, some of these sections intersect. Well, what do you do with that? Well, there are these halvesy tokens that can represent 2 different colors, and there's a lot of those. And if you play your board right, if you have a yellow tokens going this way, blue tokens going this way, you can maybe find a yellow blue to place in the middle. Now, what if you have that yellow blue, but you don't know if you can get the blue to cross the yellow, and so on and so forth? That's right. They have a little spot on your board. You can put 1 color token in reserve. You can also switch that out with another one on your player board, or switch it out with another player's. So there are a lot of options and a whole lot of strategy in this game. And there's like 8 colors or something, or maybe even 10. I don't know. There's a lot of colors in the game, and that's a good thing too, because you don't want just 1 or 2 colors. Like big runs, the longest run you can have is like 8 or 10 of a type. But after that, if you get any more, it's worth 0 points or 0 extra points. And the goal isn't just to get one big or 2 big runs. You want to get medium runs from like several different colors. And that's the way to win it. The first time I played it, I lost. I had 2 big runs of colors and some other really, really small ones that didn't generate me hardly any points. And someone else had 5 of this, 5 of that, 4 of this, 5 of that. And they slowly caught up with me and then blew me out of the water. So it's about diversity and going to all these different sections to get these certain type of tokens for your board. I can't describe it. You can check out my video on it if you want to see how the gameplay goes, but it is wonderful. I love Discover India. This is its 2nd year on the list. It debuted at 206. Didn't even make my top 200 because I'm very reserved when it comes to new games, but boy howdy did it impress me. So that's why it's up 29 spots on this list. Hey, a game that hardly moved at all from my list from last year, oddly enough, is Atlantis. Atlantis is from Mayfair Games, and in this game, you got to get 3 of your people from Atlantis to cross this path as it's sinking into the ocean to the mainland. And how's it sink into the ocean? Well, when you play a card, you move to that color tile, whatever tile. You shuffle all these tiles up, put them in stacks of 2, and make a pathway to the mainland. And so when you play, you land on that tile, but you don't grab that tile. You grab the tile that's behind you. So it's all about trying to get those big number of treasures behind you. Now, once 2 treasures are taken up, that's a gap. That's water. And then the next player, when they have to jump over the water, they have to throw away their biggest treasure token. And it sucks too. So you do have, everyone has a one-time bridge that they can use. It's permanent in the game, and it'll get you across once, but you got to be very strategic on when to play it. Now, again, this game comes with a few mini expansions, which I think you must have to enjoy this game. One is Icarus tiles. They're worth 0 points, but instead of throwing away your biggest treasure to jump over that, gap in the path, you can get rid of that Icarus tile and then jump over it for free. And people get those Icarus tiles the moment they see them. Those are almost more important than getting a big treasure token, because it's going to save you at least 1 big treasure later on. But my favorite mini expansion is the one with the boats. There are these boat tokens. You play them down. Your players can cross over for free, but every other player, if they want to cross using that boat, they can give you their smallest treasure. Or if they don't want to give you a small treasure, they can throw away their biggest treasure. That's going to suck. I'd rather give you a treasure that's worth 1 or 2 points than get rid of a treasure that's worth 6 to 8 points, right? But if too many players do that and you position it just right, you'll get way more points in the end game. That's how I've won several games before, just putting that boat token just at the right spot, the right moment, to where a lot of people decided, no, it's not worth giving up my biggest treasure. I'll give them out of 1 or 2. And I end up making like 10 points off of that. It's just great. So Atlantis is a wonderful game. It's an older game, so you may want to go back and check it out, but it's definitely cool. For the past 3 years, it's been in my collection. It started off at 136, went down to 175 in its sophomore season. Is like I said, just went down 1 spot. So it's basically at the same spot it was last year. So it's still holding strong in there. My number 175 is from Queen Games. It's a big box game. It is Lancaster. Oh, I see it's right behind me here. Lancaster, you're kind of jockeying for different positions on the board by placing knights and squires and pushing other people out until finally everyone has their own spot. This game really shines when you play the maximum player count. I think it's 5. I think you can play it to 5 players here. Yeah, 5 players. And I've played a 5-player game. I want to play a 5-player game again. It's so great because the board gets tighter and tighter. And there's a lot of strategy here. As you're gaining nobles and you're trying to control laws, you're passing laws that can benefit you to give you victory points, or stopping laws so that the existing law will not be pushed out, because once you vote a new law into existence, it pushes out one of the old laws. And you may be wanting to hold on to one of those old laws. You'll be like, no, I need to vote nay on these laws so I can score again on this. And you do that by collecting noble tokens. And on the other side, you're getting victory points, upgrading your knights to bigger things, going on crusades to get points. I mean, there's so much strategy. You play with everything. I play with all the little expansions that come with the big box, and it is so much fun. A lot of great heavy wood pieces here. The board and the pieces are very colorful. Your player shield is a castle. I mean, it's just cool. It's so thematic. This game has been in my collection for years, 5 years, almost since the very beginning when I started my collection. And it was at the top for 3 of those years. It was number 25, 20. That was the year I played with 5 people and thought it was awesome. And then it went down to 45. Last year it took a tumble at 120. This year it takes another tumble, 55 spots. What's going on with this game? It's a queen game. I should love it. And here's the problem with the game. It's not the game, it's the gameplay. Whenever, like I said, this list is based off experiences. And if I had a stinker of an experience, the game will go down. And I did. My nephews, being little jerks that they are, it's funny, but kids do this, and they're not kids, they're teenagers, but they thought it'd be funny to purposely vote down every law. I made a joke because there were 2 rounds. We successfully voted down all laws. I was doing it to be stupid the first round. They were doing it to be stupid the second round. I said, wouldn't it be funny if we didn't have any new laws? I didn't mean that, and I shouldn't have said that, because now all 3 of them conspired to vote no on every law. Even when I showed them, it will help you. You will gain victory points. Like, nope, we're going to say no. And they all decided this, little jerks, and we hardly scored any victory points in the entire game. I don't even know if anyone got to 20. It was really pathetic, and I hated it. I hated it. And the thing was, there's no way to get extra victory points. People were hogging resources left and right. I'm going to start, hogging resources was never a problem because you always spent them to get victory points. But with no victory points gained for squires or coin or whatnot, people just hoard, or cubes. People are just hoarding all the resources and holding them until they decide to vote or do something with them. And it was just really irritating to play, and I didn't like that. I will not be playing with my nephews this game next year. I don't know if they care, but yeah, it was kind of a sour experience for Lancaster this year, which is probably why it tumbled again on my list. But I do love Lancaster. My number 174 is El Gaucho. Ooh, I love El Gaucho. El Gaucho is a dice selection game where you're rolling the dice, selecting them, and then doing certain actions based on that die. Usually you're getting cattle. Sending out your cowboys to herd up cattle to get a big herd in descending or ascending order. Once you break that order, you're going to have to sell the cattle. The number of cattle, the highest number times the number of cattle tokens you have, will give you the points you need. There are these feedback tokens. It's like a mini expansion. We've played with them before, but they're not necessary in the game because you will go around the board like 2 or 3 times. And this game is cool because there is this, what's it called? You're always having to think 1 round ahead. Certain actions on the game, certain special actions you can get, you can't take advantage of them right then on that turn. You put a cowboy on there, and then the next round you can remove that cowboy at any time for the special action. Now you can't get blocked out of any of these special places because there's 1 designated spot for each player, and so you can't get multiple spots on one. You just get 1, but you want 1 on just about every one of those tiles, because at any time you may say, oh, I'm not going to get that, or I need to break my cattle herd, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep this descending order going on strong, because if you put 1 in the middle of it, that breaks the whole herd up. And so, or you may say, I want to steal some cattle. Well, there's an option for that, but you've got to set it up. And so it's all about setting up for the next turn and planning ahead, while at the same time trying to score some points. Such a fun game, very thematic. It looks great. I absolutely love it. It's been in my collection for 4 years now. 2 of those years, it was in my top 100. It was 68 and 65. And then, as games do sometimes, it dropped to 116. Now it drops 60 spots because I've noticed something. This is not a good game unless you're playing 4 players. I think you need 4 players. We played a 2-player version of this, which it says you can play 2 players, and it was awful. It was awful, meaning no one really interfered with someone else. There's plenty of ways to get cattle that doesn't interfere, because there's, I don't know, like 4 or 5 different types of cows. And so what? He goes after 2, I go after 2 of my own. Maybe we're fighting over 1, type of cow. But you can get full runs, 1 through 12 of all of these, and score the maximum points in the game, which is like 144 points, where you're stupid. You're getting 300, 400 points. You run out of point token. It's just not as fun with 2 players. I played it with 2. This is the first time I ever played with 2, and I did not have a good time because there was no challenge. There's absolutely no challenge. We were scoring the same amount of points. It was just who was going to get that 5th cattle the best, you know, and I stole a few cattle from him and cashed in real quick before he could steal from me and do the exact same thing. That's the only reason I won. All right, I beat him by a lot of points, but that's because I scored that last herd before he did. So 2 players, no good. So that, again, experiences would matter here, and I'm guessing that's probably why this thing is dropped so low on my list. But I feel like I have to apologize for each one of these. I'm not apologizing. I love these games. So 174, El Gaucho. My number 173 is a new game to my collection, and it is a new edition of a game that's been out for a long time by Stefan Feld. It's called Luna. I got the special edition to Luna, or the deluxe edition. This is one of the last games that Tasty Minstrel Games put out before they went kaput, and I got lucky because I backed it, and then they started having all those problems. I thought, is this game going to come in? And they did. I think it was the last one, last Kickstarter. All the other ones just kind of fell through, but this one came through. I was so happy because I was scared I was going to lose money, but I got Luna, and it's a really fun game. There's a lot going on as you're going island to island, trying to build altars, trying to do certain objectives in the game to get your priest eventually into those temple spots, to score some victory points, to bump other people out of those spots of the temple as well, to also be around the moon goddess to get points, to being around the builder to make sure you can build those important altars, and then to make sure you're not around the heretic to lose points, even though you can move the heretic to other islands too. It's a really fun game, but you don't need the deluxeified version. I think I said this in my review this year, is that the metal coins were nice, but those little half metal coins, they're hard to, or quarter metal coins, they're all moon shaped. The half ones are okay, but the ones they look like fingernail clippings. First off, which you're like, ugh, because here, have a few fingernails is what we were kind of joking with it. But there's really hard to get up from the table and everything. So I think the base edition would have been fine. I swooned when I saw the nice blocky wood pieces and metal coins. I said, I got to get this. And to be honest, the base edition would be fine. So if you get don't worry about getting the deluxe, get the base edition. It is a fun failed game though. I absolutely love it. So that's why it's on my list at 173. 172 it's been in my collection for 3 years, but I forgot to rank it my first year. So this is the second time getting ranked here, and it is a great game. It is Trogdar, the Burninator game. It's a co-op game where you're each controlling Trogdar the Burninator as he's burninating the villagers and the countryside and the cottages, the thatch roof cottages. It's based off of was a Homestar Runner. Homestar Runner was an old website back in the early 2000s, and they decided out of the blue a couple of years ago to come up with a game. And what do they know about board games, right? I backed it anyway because it's Homestar Runner. Of course I wanted it. And then the game ended up to be really awesome. And I will not lie here, as you each control Trogdar, but you all have special abilities in the game, so you can do certain things, and it's action point based, so you're using X amount of action points to burn the villagers, the countryside, the cottages, and you're trying to get the whole place burned. It's easier said than done because knights and archers are trying to skewer you and hurt you, while as peasants and the trog hammer is really going to hurt you too, but peasants and knights are also rebuilding the land and the huts too. So you have to do it before you run out of peasants. When peasants disappear, they go into the void. This game is really odd, but I have the deluxe edition. You can get the regular edition too with just the wooden meeples, and those are beautiful too. I love them. I just got the wooden meeple Homestar Runner characters too. Why? There's no purpose to them, but they made them anyway just for kicks, and I love them. This game is really awesome. I have had a few friends play this and love it, even though they don't know who Strombat is or Homestar Runner or any of those characters. My nephews, I will tell you that this game started off last year when I forgot about 2 years ago. I ranked it at 185. It's already moved up 13 spots. It probably will move up more. I would not be surprised if all of my nephews put this in their top 5. I mean, maybe even top 3. Top 3 games of all time. I'm serious. I don't know if they put it number 1, but they could be as high as number 2 for a lot of them. They all love Trogdar. And we play this a lot of times. We played a game. There's one of the cards, and the game doesn't take itself seriously. There's a lot of jokes in it too. But one of them is like, one of the special powers is the cheat, who is a character in the cartoon series. And what do you do with it? You cheat. However you want to. So, we knew we were going to win. So the game doesn't, that's an overpowered card. they're just having fun with it. They're just having fun with it. And that's what makes this game so much fun. Even if you don't know Homestar Runner, you really should check. I mean, it looks totally weird when you see a dragon with a man with a muscle arm hanging out of his back. You're like, this looks dumb. The game is actually really good. It really is good. So Trogdar, my number 172. Number 171, oddly enough, was 171 last year. I don't look at my list from last year, and even though I can kind of remember where certain games around are ranked, to have one that, places even from year to year is kind of odd, to me at least. This is Red Outpost. It was a Kickstarter that I thought was going to be the biggest thing in the world when it came out. Of course, it came out with a murmur and a little poof of smoke, and now it's gone. But you're in I think you're on Mars or something, and you're running, you're a communist on Mars, and everyone's working in different areas, and they're sharing supplies and whatnot for the greater good of the community. And it's kind of miserable, but at the same time, there's a lot of strategy here, because every time you can control any worker. It's worker placement, but everyone controls all the workers. And you're trying to score points through various means. One of the ways you can score points is making your workers happy, and then having the majority of moments in there through an average day of when you made them happy to give them points. However, if they don't do the one thing they were hired to do, if they do anything else, they're going to be sad. And why do you want to make someone sad? Because I see so-and-so has a majority in that person. They're going to get 5 points in this round unless I make them miserable for the rest of the day. I'm going to make them do things they hate doing and bring down their happiness so that person gets negative points now. But I can't put too many discs on there, because then I'll have the majority and I'll end up getting those negative points. You may have to see this game to understand what I mean here, but it's a unique concept. I've never seen it before. The game is actually pretty simple. I put it as a next step game, really. And there's so much strategy here. It's easy to play. It's not a table hog. The components look great. The artwork looks great. I dig it. I love it. But this game, just like a lot of games I love on my list, it sailed under everyone's radars and no one cares about the game anymore. But I love it. It's a great game. And obviously I got it right from last year, because it stayed on my list at 171. All right, folks, that is it for now, but I will see you next time with more games.